you know, they say that in the industry there's two types of people: people who have been hacked and people who don't know they've been hacked. And I think that's 100% true. I don't think there's anyone that can ever get away from it completely, but I do think you can make yourself a less attractive target and a less easy target.
Be right back. I need to go take my laptop in, wash it, and bleach.
Yeah.
Like, what's the... Okay. Time out. Let's unpack this. Hey, this is Chaz Roberts. I'm a personal injury lawyer. It's my passion to bring the law to the people, and that's the purpose of this podcast. You're listening to Law Have Mercy.
Dude, do you want to spice up?
You are listening to Law Have Mercy.
Glad to hear everyone's doing well in your family.
Selfishly, I've been looking forward to this just to catch up with you. So
you're so sweet. And Scott.
Scott too. Scott's telling me I got to ask you. I'm asking everyone here.
All right.
Real quick, favorite law movie besides My Cousin Vinny?
Michael Clayton.
Never saw it.
George Clooney?
No. Is it good?
Yeah, because he's just a fixer. And I feel like, I mean, I'm obviously not in New York. I'm not solving a murder or anything like that. But he's a fixer. And I like to think of myself when there's incidents kind of like a fixer, because a lot of what I do sometimes I wouldn't say is traditional law. Sometimes it's really just being like, let's be calm, record what we're doing, figure out what to make of it later, and just do our best to, you know, sweep up this mess before, you know, it stains.
Yeah, I've called myself a fixer many times. I've also called myself a plumber because I deal with people shit, and I've called myself a fireman because I put out fires all the time. So
you would love Michael Clayton.
I would love it. I'm going to add that to the list. Can we move her boom a little bit?
What's a boom? This thing?
Yeah. So like when I look at you,
you can't see me.
You have a nice face. I want to see your face.
Aw, Chaz, see, you're so kind.
And the bar is right in the middle of your face. No, we're good. Okay. Perfect.
I feel like this is forcing me to improve my posture by having this in front of my face.
That's probably not the worst thing in the world for me.
No, it's not bad for me either. I feel like I look like a Secret Service agent from the waist up in this. And I say that as someone who works proudly with Secret Service agents.
Who are your clients?
Oh, my biggest client is probably the state of Louisiana, Division of Administration. And under that umbrella, I represent a couple of different agencies.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. And then a lot of managed service providers, and then a couple of entities sort of tangential to the healthcare field. Only one is a real provider. And then one's a grants writer. I don't know. I'd have to look at the list. A couple of investment companies, software developers.
I mean, the state of Louisiana is a pretty big client.
It is a very big client, and I really enjoy it because it's fun. It's all like public service work, so yeah. it's like a lot of fun.
I can't imagine working in big law.
Two of us with kids.
How in the actual?
I look back and I'm like, my God, I was like, that sucked.
But you're so much more studious than I ever was, sure. But like even more than your facade portrays. Like you're a worker bee, and you do well in structured environments like that.
I can, but I ran into the bureaucracy of like, well, we can't change things even if it makes sense. So I was like, well, this is stupid. I always hated it. I'm not going to lie about that. I had a great boss. And then, so that kind of shielded me from the parts that I hated. And then he moved on to another firm. And then I was stuck with the people I didn't like. And I couldn't follow him to his new job because he wasn't moving to a position where, and I was a young partner. So I would have had to give up a lot to follow him.
Right.
So I could have, but I was like, let's see. And then I had an epiphany. I used to speak annually every year at this, that's what annually means, in San Francisco at this toxic tort conference. And it was a huge event. It was the biggest one all year. San Francisco is an unbelievable dump. Dave Chappelle's totally correct. But, you know.
Just got back.
You did?
Yeah.
You didn't think it was a dump?
I didn't go in the dump parts.
I was in Nob Hill,
I saw that Instagram. You were some nice parts.
Yeah.
You were in Nob Hill?
What is Nob Hill?
The top.
No, I was downtown. I only spent a day and a half there. We went to Sonoma.
Yeah, that's watch out. You better make sure Beth's not pregnant. We did that and we came back with a third kid. Yeah. Chaz is like, can someone text my wife?
We're so tired.
Yeah.
We got a dog and my wife just can't get a and rescue. We went get the dog.
So how's your golden doodle doing?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And what I'm realizing is like a dog is like having a child.
Yeah, puppy, they're up all night.
They wake up at night. They require constant attention, feeding, vet bills. We got to board this little cat when we go 2 days somewhere. It's like I've been sold a bill of goods, and I'm trying to like, where's my one condition was you will take care of the dog. Oh yeah, Chaz, sure, no problem. Hey, can you walk the dog? Can you do that? This wasn't the deal.
You're a dad, though. I mean, what did you think was going to happen?
And I texted her, and I was like, hey, I'm so done with Champ. And then now, every time I'm petting him, like, she comes, that you were so done with him, right?
Oh, yeah.
He's so cute, too. He's
Oh,
awesome.
see, there it is. There it is right there. You just let it slip, man.
Right.
You ready?
Been wrong.
Oh, great. Thanks for the heads up, man.
Thanks, bud.
Preach.
So, Sarah,
Can I say what I want to say first to him?
no.
Well, that's just too bad. You invited me here.
Okay.
I'm a guest. I'm very proud of you, Chaz. I think this is, like I told your cousin earlier, I was like, this is just, I'm so proud of seeing how successful you are. I am not in the least bit shocked because you've always just been kind and smart. It was really just a decision of like, does Chaz want to apply himself today or does Chaz want to chill?
Most of the time, I just want to chill.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm not in the least bit surprised to see how well you've done, and I love seeing the posts on Facebook and whatnot of like you and Beth doing fun stuff, and your business doing well. So it's just so good to see.
Appreciate that. It's an honor to have you here. I'm so
thank you.
It's amazing to think about where we started, where we were just studying for the bar,
God.
two broke out.
Oh yeah.
And you were obviously much smarter than me, so I was trying to get some of those study tips. But
I just have the notes. That's it.
That's it. Well, that's 90% of the battle in law
Yeah,
school,
that's
right?
the whole battle.
But to have you here after all these years, your military service, you're working in big law, starting your own firm, that we can sit down and have a conversation and maybe have something worth it to talk about to educate people, right? That's an amazing thing.
Well, I mean, I guess that's the nice thing about age. I mean, everything else sucks about it, but at least you get a little bit more intelligent with the experience,
Amen. Well, people tend to listen to you a little bit more than whenever you just start getting out and,
Oh, yeah.
At least that's what they tell me.
Supposedly.
My clients don't always listen to me, so.
I'm a big fan of Taylor Swift. Do you like Taylor Swift?
Yeah.
Okay, so she had this song on the album or two before this last album called The Man. And like there's a line and people believe you, what's that like? And I think everyone interprets that to mean like this lawsuit she had for like sexual assault or whatever. I don't think that's all it's about. It's also about being like, hey, I think the sky's falling. People are like, psh, no. And then they're like, what's going on with the sky? I'm like, I just said to you that it was falling.
Right.
And, as a female, you sit there and you say like, this is a problem. They're like, oh, you're overreacting. I'm like, okay, I'll just stay here and be quiet. So no, I acutely feel that only starts to wear off a little bit with age.
I can't speak from a female's perspective, but I can tell you as a male's perspective, they don't always listen to me either.
Well, that makes me feel better.
Yeah. So, but I tell people, it's like, Chaz, why do you always have a frown on your face? Well, I'm a happy-go-lucky guy. Unfortunately, the career I picked, I am paid to be negative. I am paid to look at the worst possible situation in every facet of life for your protection.
Yep. Absolutely.
This is what I have selected.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I'm deep into it now, and it's paying the bills. And then when you have kids, you're like, well, they're used to this, and so you're sitting there like, I guess I'm not going to go to culinary school after all, or whatever it is you were going to do.
I'm a terrible cook, so that was never an option for me.
Ben kind of wants to go to culinary school, and I'm just like, I tell you what, give me a couple more years to like get the business totally. Let's get into year 5 and 6, and I was like, then we could talk about you just cutting loose and.
Well, that's so funny.
Making pie.
He doesn't want a restaurant, does he?
No, not at all.
Because if you're a listener of the podcast, there's one thing that I say that I will never do, and that is invest in a restaurant.
Nope.
Not name McDonald's and Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
Right? I think it's, well, no offense to our restaurateurs out there, but I just think it's a damn tough way to make a living.
You can't, I don't know if you can really do it unless you really understand the business, because you don't really know what the expectations are.
Unfortunately, it's hard to package someone that understands the business and can cook a damn good filet, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just hard to get those two together.
No, but he enjoys I think the more creative, like, facets of adulthood. And so
that's awesome.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me at all. Too
bad he's still not on the market. He sounds like a catch.
I mean, watch out, ladies. I will shoot somebody.
And I believe you will shoot him.
Oh, absolutely. And it's funny because, like, you know, as you get older, you're like, it's not like the crazy, like, college jealousy of, like, girlfriends and boyfriends where you're just like, she looked at my man, whatever. No, it's straight up like, if you come in here and bust up my family, like, I will do horrible things to you while you're alive and dead. Like,
and given your military background, I believe that you're capable of doing bad things to people.
I don't even know if you need a military background to do it. I mean,
just crazy.
Yeah, just crazy. Yeah, I mean.
Well, we talked about social media earlier when you were. I want to see if by the end of the podcast you can get me to delete TikTok.
Okay.
I don't know. Is it that
So
bad?
you have a TikTok account, clearly.
I have a TikTok account with 16,000 followers. There's my own plug.
Ooh, look at you.
But you know, I hear so much in you, so I wanna pick your brain on that and other cybersecurity issues, because that is what you focus your practice on, right?
That's all I want to do. Yes, I occasionally do other things for friends and whatnot, but generally that's all I want to do. I don't do any family. I do not do any criminal. I'll do a little on the business side. I don't do any property anymore because I'm not very good at it. But I strictly do cybersecurity work. That's it. That's all I'm interested in.
That is so unique. I don't know anyone else that does that.
There's a few people who really do it. I mean, there's plenty of people that are now kind of professing to do it. And then I'll be talking to them on the phone and I realize I have no idea what they're talking about. But I mean, it's a learning process and it's not like there's a million CLEs that you can attend and get your feet wet. So I kind of respect let me just get my feet wet and learn as I go mentality, because that's what I had to do. So I'm not picking on them, but there's only a couple of us. And I find that it's a slightly different breed of lawyer. And I think also you have to understand that it's kind of like a thankless business in a lot of ways, because you're essentially, you know, you're kind of like the legal version of a funeral home director. No one wants to talk to you until they need you. No matter how many times you say, like, you can save money if you do this up front, you do this. But at the end of the day, like, it takes something crappy happening. And then I get to visit with people, you know, probably like you did when you were in the public defender's office, sort of in a very poor moment in their lives.
Yeah, I can relate, because I spend a lot of my time telling people to buy more insurance, buy uninsured motorist coverage, buy UM. There's bad people out there that don't care about you, and you get in a wreck and you'll be screwed because they're not going to have enough insurance. People understand me. People like me. People hear me. They still don't do it because it hasn't happened to them. And when it happens to them, it's usually a bad situation. They come into my office sometimes if they didn't listen to me, and I say, I told you so. Now we got a problem. And we don't have any money to go after it. So I definitely understand, like, you're on the mountaintop saying you need this, but by the time something happens, it could be too late.
Sometimes it's too late. A lot of the times it's too late. It's almost always too late for them to save money that they wouldn't otherwise have had to spend. In terms of permanent consequences, nothing's really permanent except death, and I guess taxes is the old saying. But I mean, my thing is, I tell people, look, no one died, but let's pick up the pieces and figure it out. But it's just a lot easier it's a lot easier to get back to steady state of operations if you have certain things in place, you reinforce them, and you also do the uncomfortable work of taking a deep dive into where you are currently and what can be improved. And that's usually, you know, I can't speak for you because I've known you almost 20 years now, and you've never had an ugly or fat day in your life. But like, it's kind of like women when we go to the doctor, right? First thing they do is weigh you, and it's like you're just like, really, do we have to do this? Like, can we not? I don't need a reminder. I'm good. Like, so it's almost like you're asking to weigh somebody in public when you do this, and like see every little piece of cellulite, and that it's just, I feel like it's very, and that's from my female perspective. That's, I feel like what I'm asking them to do sometimes. And it's a tough thing for them to do. I think only if they've been hit before, or someone they know dear and dear to them has suffered a consequence, is it more readily, or are they more interested in addressing the issue?
We're talking, you've given some great examples. Let's talk more concrete. Like, what are we talking about? We're talking about businesses. Let's talk, and these are cyber attacks.
So I look at the world in three categories: people as individuals, businesses, and then public entities. And I think a lot of things goes for all three. You know, public entities have certain legal protections in place to assist them if there's an issue. For businesses, I think it's probably the most paramount to be proactive and defensive. Because one, we're not allowed, you know, to be offensive with cybersecurity. So you can't go in and attack anybody else, foreign or domestic, without violating the Espionage Act or being called a domestic terrorist. So it's all a defense game. And for businesses, they are subject to so many regulations, whether they're in a traditionally regulated field or not. Right.
So let me ask you a really dumb question. Who are the bad actors that the laws are designed to protect against?
Who are they? That's a great question. I would say two broad categories. You've got, you know, cyber actors, like bad actors, domestic, foreign, primarily foreign. They can be nation state backed, or they can just be freelance. Freelance is huge. People act like it's a one-off. It's not.
It could be anyone with an internet connection in any country in the world.
Absolutely. It just depends on, you know, their motives are all different. And then you've got entities that are selling the data that they collect, without much regard to who they're selling it to and what the data is going to be used for. And you see that a lot in, you know, predatory artificial intelligence tools that are used to supposedly weed out certain types of people based on, you know, demographics such as, you know, race, age, gender, you know, different affiliations, religious affiliations. So you've got all of that. And then you've also got companies that are selling it simply because it's used to go into marketing analytics for robocalls. There's a very famous Real Housewife of Salt Lake City who just went to jail for 6.5 years for basically targeting Social Security recipients and older people and selling them things that they could never get out of. So that data came from people who collect it and then resell it to...
And they collected it illegally from a data breach?
Oh, no, it's not always a data breach. Sometimes it's just your login, password, and some of the questions you answer when you buy something on Nike.com. And this is not against Nike or anything. But, you know, when you go in and you sign up for anything, especially online, right? Or if you want your email discount on whatever it is you're buying online, you go in and you put your, you know, email address, your telephone number. Now everybody wants to text you. Your email address, your telephone number. Sometimes they'll ask for an age, especially if it's any kind of online gaming system. They have to ask for your age. And they'll ask if you're male or female, or they'll be able to tell from your whatever information you're putting in there. And that is all used to build a profile on you that is then compared and sold for advertising purposes and whatnot. So when people are going out there and they're like, well, I'm going to use my work email, or, and this is a really risky behavior, work email or any other type of permanent email that they would use otherwise, whether, you know, military email being a big one. Obviously work email, or an email address that they've used for everything. Maybe it's not work related, but it's got, you know, all the school information for their kids on there, and you're using that to sign up for things. You know, that email eventually will get breached, or they use the same password. Password replication is huge for that email that they use to sign up for this online thing. And the moment that data breach occurs, they have your password, they have your email, and depending on what market you work in, that can be extremely valuable, or it can just be a nuisance value or something they can sell. Because people's information is sold in blocks, like really big blocks. And they're sold, identities are sold for, you know, quarters of a penny on the dollar, if that. And it's all the game for whether you're a bad actor, primarily if you're a bad actor, or a legitimate company that is using that data for other information, is it's you know, low quality, high volume business. So if you're a bad actor and you want to know how many credit cards you can exploit, because a lot of it is financially motivated, you know, if you have your credit frozen and I'm going through and I'm a bad guy and I want to see if I can open, if your credit's frozen, I'm not dealing with you. I'm not going to look for a workaround. You're just going to the trash pile. I want to see whose credit is left unlocked. You know, I want to see who has a good credit score because, you know, they've always paid their bills, and I want to make sure it's unlocked, and I want to find out how much information they've fed into this system that I have since accessed legitimately or illegitimately, and I want to use that to my advantage and say, oh, I see that they own this business in an area where California has flooding. Well, the next time California has flooding, I'm going to go ahead and apply for an economic disaster relief loan in their name. And I've got their social, I've got their emails, I've got all the information on the business pedigree, because businesses are all on Secretary of State's website, wherever you're incorporated. And I'll go ahead and apply for those loans and hope I get granted. And I mean, I see that a lot. And so really when you're feeding this information in because you want to just get a discount on something, this is a really risky behavior, use a dummy email address that doesn't have any of your information on it. There's plenty of online, fully encrypted email addresses available for free that are run out of Switzerland or whatever, and they'll never find you.
Yeah. Just give us a couple points like that to the people watching, listening. How can you operate? How can you go about your life and be as safe as possible to avoid some type of cyber attack?
First of all, I want to say it's totally unavoidable. You cannot avoid, they say that in the industry there's two types of people who have been hacked or whatnot, and people who don't know they've been hacked. And I think that's 100% true. I don't think there's anyone that can ever get away from it completely, but I do think you can make yourself a less attractive target and a less easy target. So the biggest thing is freeze your credit. Everybody needs to have their credit frozen. Your kid's credit needs to be frozen. Everybody's credit should be frozen. Why? Example, I was in college and I was applying for some college job I saw in the student newspaper, true story. And they didn't really say what it was. They say you can make, at the time, $15 an hour, which was a ton of money back then. I'm aging myself. But, and you call them up and they asked for, your information. They want to do a background check on you because it turned out to be a call center, right? But at the time, this is before cybersecurity was a big thing and identity theft was a big thing. What's your social, and they're basically running a credit check on you. And I gave it to them like a complete idiot, right? Well, now, you've got, if someone had that information and had access to it, nothing would stop them from getting a loan in my name. And as an 18-year-old, 20-year-old, did you check your credit? No. Did you really know what it was? No. So are you going to know back then that someone pirated your identity for their own financial gain until you get a nasty phone call or a letter? No, you're not. And same with kids, right? Are you checking your son's credit? I guarantee you never have. I have never checked my son's credit. So those, I call them, virgin credit reports. They're great. Why wait for your kid to be in his 20s and buy a truck they can't afford to ruin their credit? I'll go ahead and, as a bad actor, I'll ruin it for you right now. Don't worry about it. And that's what they do is they steal that information. That's why schools are so often hit. One, they're underfunded, especially public schools. And two, they've got tons and tons of unfrozen virgin credit. And so freezing your credit, most important thing you can do. Mine's frozen all the time. It's so easy to unfreeze, and it's free. It became free in September 2018.
How do you do it?
Online. So it used to be they would give you this ridiculous pin, and I would tape it to the inside of my gun safe. But now it's, they just answer all these questions based on public records. So, that would be my first tip. The second thing that I tell people to do is have a burner email. You want to go ahead and buy stuff. I buy all sorts of crap, and I'm a sucker for a rebate. Absolutely. Here you go. I'll give you my email address.
Every site gives a rebate.
Yeah, every site gives a rebate if you're a member. I buy sneakers in bulk because I have 3 sons. And so I bought a ton of sneakers yesterday on Adidas. And I use a burner email for that. That email is not used for anything else. It's shopping. Right. And then
is there a certain site you would recommend?
I've used Proton Mail, totally free. If you lock yourself out of it, though, you're hosed because there's no way for you to get back into it. So you just create another Proton Mail account. I have lots of Proton Mail accounts. And so there's that. Another thing I recommend doing, and aside from having the burner emails when you sign up for it, they're not checking to see if you're a real person. So half of them, I'm a dude born in, 1985, I think, or 83 on my email accounts, because there's no reason they need to know that I'm a chick, with a certain date of birth. I tell them I'm a dude. I like to keep the date of birth about the same because I don't want to get, advertisements for stuff that are totally outside my age range. So I'm just lazy like that. And I'm like, if there's a good ad, I want to see it. I want to know if there's a sale on like Dr. Scholl's inserts, right? That's my demographic, man. But so that would be another one. Would be the burner email for everyday citizens. And then the other thing is just no public Wi-Fi. Those would probably be my top 3 for the average citizen. Is go to an airport. Your kids are just being a pain in the butt, and they want their iPad or whatever. They want to get on the airport Wi-Fi. No, sorry, not my family. You're not. Because no one's monitoring it. It can be pirated for all kinds of purposes. There's no blocking any of the malicious IP addresses that are looking to connect. And most cyber attacks happen without your knowledge. And frankly, it's just not worth it to encrypt you. It's a lot easier just to live off the land of your email address, your network, whatever it is that you're using, collect information about you and use that for other nefarious purposes. I'm not going to, the last thing anyone does in a cyber attack is encrypt you, because that's the end. It's over.
Okay, I'll be right back. I need to go take my laptop and wash it in bleach.
Yeah.
Like, okay, time out. Let's unpack this. Public Wi-Fi?
Yeah, I'm a big no public Wi-Fi.
I mean, coffee house.
No. So I have
airports. I mean, you named it. I mean, here, there's a public,
I wouldn't get on your public Wi-Fi. I carry Wi-Fi with me everywhere I go. But I mean, that's because of the industry. How do you avoid that?
A bad actor? No, well, first of all, how does this even happen? A bad actor can just access your IP information, or they can like see what you're doing and stuff. I'm sorry.
All of the above. No, it's okay. So from a technology perspective, I kind of understand how it works, but I leave this a lot to the forensics guys I work with. But for the most part, if there is public Wi-Fi offered by an organization, chances are they're not protecting that network. That's why it's free, because free stuff is unprotected because it's expensive to protect it. And so you never know who's monitoring the activity on that network. So if you are on public Wi-Fi and you log into your bank account and someone is able to watch all traffic, they just got your login for your bank account. You see what I'm saying? So for my kids, I don't worry as much when they're just on their Amazon Kindles, because there's nothing on there that they really log into except their PIN. And honestly, if you want their account, have it. I'd love to get rid of those things. But otherwise...
Sometimes.
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes
not on airplanes. Yeah, not on airplanes. But, if you use Verizon... I mean, any of the major telecom carriers, they have these little packs, and they used to be expensive, and now they're not. And you can, I think I paid, and this is 3 years ago, I paid like $180 for my little MiFi thing, and I think it's like $15 a month. And I have Wi-Fi everywhere I go. It's on the same 5G network everyone else is, and it's through my carrier, and it comes with us on road trips, so it's nice to have in the car with your kids. And I use it for work, so I deduct it from my business, and I think every business needs to be issuing those things out.
So when somebody, different subject but related, when someone buys an app on their iPhone, and you get this great service or product for free, and it tracks your calories or gives you the best workout, and you're not paying a subscription, what is the real cost of that?
You'd have to look at the privacy policy, but chances are they're selling it. They're just selling the data.
They're getting your data. They're making something attractive for you to purchase or you to download so they can get your data.
Yes, because data analytics is an extremely lucrative field. It's used for marketing, just like, figuring out which hashtags are most likely to get you the best exposure when you post this podcast on wherever you're going to post it. It's used for the same thing. It's used for companies that are in the market of buying or developing and selling diet food. Who is my target audience? Who are these? Primarily women on their app? Are they men? Is it a mix? What age group am I looking at? What foods am I seeing them repeat over and over and over again? Because I've had those apps, and look, I honestly don't care that much that this app knows how much I weigh. As long as I don't know, I'm generally happy. I just don't want to know, and I don't want my husband to know. But for the most part, I don't really care. And I've used those apps before, but they're looking and they're saying, okay, well, this person eats a lot of these. I love these like dark chocolate coconut bars that Atkins has. I put them in the freezer, and they're just great. This person, they know I'm eating a lot of these. So if they sell that information and review products back to Atkins, they can see which products to promote or which products they don't have to promote because they're selling so well, and what to further invest in. And they'll be able to see that like women of middle age love dark chocolate, that's something that they can figure out. So it's all being sold. So some of it is not always nefarious. It's just, what are you okay with,
But there's no such thing as free.
No, absolutely not.
There's a cost.
There's a cost. You're just not paying it. Someone else is paying it, and maybe at your expense, but you're paying it. Like
can they see all the other stuff you're doing on your phone?
It depends. So a lot of apps can. TikTok being absolutely that app. Yeah. So TikTok is probably the most dangerous thing on a cell phone. Because TikTok, the way the initial program was set up, and they have hired an American CEO, and they are supposedly changing this. And they've had a couple of different hearings, I think with the Commerce Committee for Congress, and they're definitely going to be, I would imagine some forced changes. No one, the sad thing is whether they make the changes or not, no one's really going to know unless you reverse engineer it, which can be illegal. And so you kind of have to take their word for it. And 99% of people don't understand, or more than 99%, 99.8% of people don't understand the way it works anyways. Like I read about it. I learn about it from people I work with who do get it, and I still don't totally get it, and it's part of my job to get it. But what I do know is that it has the capability to track every single thing you're doing on your phone, whether it is actively recording you around your phone. I'm not sure. I don't think that is, but it's taking every single password to every other application that you use, everything that you do on, if you have a iPhone Safari or whatever it is you're using. It's got, if you're using a password manager on your iPhone, it knows how to get into that password manager. TikTok does. And then every single password in that password manager it has, along with the login information. It's Chinese owned. There's no secret about that. All Chinese businesses are subject to, I hate this word because it sounds really, makes me sound like I'm, on a Netflix documentary, but it's a totalitarian regime, right? So they control what their businesses do and don't do, and all of that information gets fed back to the Chinese government, and they share it with whoever they want. So part of me gets really frustrated when I see, government officials on TikTok. It makes me want to kind of vomit inside my own mouth. And for you, I wouldn't love having a TikTok account because you get your email on your phone.
I do. You
do. And you read those emails on your phone.
Yes.
And so I think you're going to see a time where it's prohibited by the bar associations. All TikTok use is now illegal in 12 states. Louisiana may be the 13th state for government employees. But it's every state except 12. I have that in reverse. Every state except 12 prohibits the use of TikTok on state government devices.
And Montana just banned it outright for all citizens of Montana.
That doesn't shock me. Montana did a lot. They actually just passed their first consumer data privacy thing in the, legislation in this session that we're in right now. It got signed like 2 weeks ago.
Okay, so after we finish bleaching the laptop, we're going to have to scrub the phone from TikTok.
Yeah, I mean, it's just because you just never know.
It's so damn good.
I know, and the super apps are coming, so I don't know. I'm not on TikTok for obvious reasons, but the super app thing is going to be where TikTok and they have us all by the balls, for lack of a better term, right?
It's so
I know. Look, I'm on the gram. I don't post anything on the gram, but I'm on it, and I love nothing more than to watch pandas eating bamboo for some reason. It just makes me so happy. And same with when they can just chomp into like a melon. It's just very satisfying to watch these little red pandas. They're so cute. But
so now pandas are all over your Explore page.
Yeah, no, I love pandas. I've always loved. If I ever got a tattoo, I was going to get a panda. I just love a panda.
But its ability to, you and I could be talking. One time we were.
You're gonna have pandas now too.
You're gonna to my pandas. Point. I mean, we were at the beach and we were using flashlights, and we weren't even. I don't think we said the word flashlight. And the next ad on Instagram was a flashlight.
Because your wife said, "Chaz, where are the flashlights?"
Yeah, it's amazing.
But yeah. So, and you never know when you're going to be the victim, right? And you never know what you're looking for. But
the counter argument, and I know Gary Vee talks about this a lot, is that, it does make for a better shopping experience or a better experience when the ads actually have some information about what I want.
It's not all bad. It's like anything else in life, right? It's not all bad, right? And, with the exception of like black tar heroin, that's all bad, right? There's obviously exceptions to that rule. But for the most part, like they tell you in a test to stay away from answers that say always and never, like hard extremes just aren't realistic. So, it's not all bad, right? And people get a lot of joy out. And I think, from a mental health perspective, and I am not a doctor or a genius on the public, but it was probably really, good for people to have that kind of outlet into the world. And so when we were all segregated like that. So all to be said, it's a risk. And what is your tolerance? Right. From a cyber perspective, I obviously don't have one. I don't have a risk tolerance, but, I have risk tolerance in other aspects of my life. But with that, you just never know when you're going to be a victim. And then you also don't know what to look for. I have people that are like, when they come to me after an event, and they're not usually people, they're usually businesses. They come to me after an event and be like, well, this happened or this happened for, and I didn't think anything of it. And the things that they weren't thinking anything of was, I got this letter in the mail saying our business was declined for a credit card. And that's an easy one. I'm like, well, did you apply for that card? No. Then why that didn't trigger you to be like, how did this happen? I didn't apply for this, business blue card or whatever from American Express, but it showed up. A declination letter saying they couldn't verify, especially when the letter says we couldn't verify more information about your business. That tells me that someone made a failed attempt to apply in your name, or their, internet was kind of spotty for a day or two, and when it came back on, they noticed changes on their desktop, or they noticed that, instead of Chrome being their default browser, another browser came up. Well, someone changed the settings. Who changed the settings, right? So there's a lot of things like that can trigger you that something is up, because encryption is the last, ransom, encryption, everything being burnt down. That's always the last step. That tells us they're done with you, or you're onto them and they know it. So they got to, just kind of milk every last cent out of you. So you usually get notified that something is going on before that big event occurs. And when that big event occurs, my advice to people is to immediately contact law enforcement. Even before you call me, call law enforcement. And for financial and mitigation of liability purposes, I'm a big believer that you call the Secret Service if you're missing money. Because the Secret Service used to be a branch of the Department of Treasury. Now they're under Homeland Security. But they actually have the ability to recoup stolen funds domestically. They say 4 days, and then internationally they say 72 hours. They prefer 24 to 48 hours to get a good lead on things before, especially in cryptocurrency, before it's commingled and it's harder to trace. But they have been successful on several occasions getting money back. The FBI doesn't do that. Everyone wants to call the FBI. The FBI is doing criminal investigations. They're not interested in helping you kind of get back up and find out what happened.
How do you contact the Secret Service?
I will give everybody the phone number for the resident agent in charge anytime they want it. But you can essentially just call the Secret Service field office in New Orleans. That number should be posted. There's also a field office in Baton Rouge. That telephone number is also posted. And I would just say, hey, I think I've been the victim of a cyber attack. I'm missing money. Trust me, they'll call you back, because they have a huge cyber financial fraud task force. And they do a really great job with those investigations. And then
it sounds like they're impressive.
They're extremely impressive. Yeah. And then Louisiana State Police actually has a Secret Service agent in their building on the cybercrime unit floor. And they also have 2 FBI agents on there. And they're supposed to be getting a Coast Guard agent. And then they've got their own analysts. And they perform essentially digital forensics for you. They can tell you exactly what happened, where they came from, to the extent it is knowable. And they actually have access to better tools, because they have tools that have only been kind of test drove by the government at this point, and then not always available for commercial release. So I really recommend people call one of those entities, because usually they can be on site, depending where you are, in a couple of hours. If you're in Baton Rouge, where state police headquarters and they work, they'll be on your site within an hour. If you're in New Orleans, Secret Service can be there. They have an agent, their field office there. So I always recommend calling law enforcement first. From one, you get free digital forensics. Otherwise, that's going to cost you between $50,000 and $200,000, depending on the scope of the work. You're not going to get the same level of report that maybe an insurance company wants to see, but you're going to get a lot of information that can then be utilized by the insurance company to figure out what your next steps are and their preferred vendors without incurring the same cost. And then another reason is mitigation of liability, especially for private industry, is if you sit there and say, this event happened, I called law enforcement, I did everything I could to remediate the situation and mitigate the downside of it, because they can perform forensics a lot quicker, and they can do a very in-depth job. You're basically demonstrating to whoever your event is impacting that you did everything you could to make it better, so they can't come back and claim, a failure to mitigate, at least on that level. So I find that to be really, really important. And then the next thing is getting an attorney involved, because getting an attorney involved, whether it's your personal injury attorney or someone else, whoever represents the business, whatever you say to them is privileged. And if they're involved in your incident response, as long as that's involving your own clients, or if it's involving law enforcement, a lot of that is privileged. And we're seeing a lot of discovery battles that in the, I would say, court system, when these things get litigated, they weren't properly shielded by attorney-client privilege, and it comes out, and that's going to do a lot more damage, because no doubt, you were doing something you either weren't supposed to be doing, your employee was doing something they weren't supposed to be doing, or you're using old equipment, and all of those little pieces can be considered negligence, especially if you're in a regulated data industry. And in some courts, a failure to adhere to HIPAA regulations can be considered negligence per se in a private right of action. So even though regulations like HIPAA or the FTC Act don't allow private right of actions, smart plaintiffs attorneys such as yourself have taken that framework, and they've said, well, this is the negligence standard. Yeah, I can't sue them under this, but I can take that and make that your duty standard. And some courts are saying, you know what, that makes total sense. And in fact, it's negligence per se, because you were required by law to adhere to that anyways, and you didn't. So those are really the two big things I would recommend people do.
Do you recommend people buy some type of insurance to protect themselves?
Yes, although insurance is going to be a lot harder to come by. So Lloyd's of London recently issued a bulletin last August, and then in November released their clauses that are going to be included, and then as of March 31st, I was trying to remember, it was a 30-day or 31-day month. They are expanding for all new policies, and including renewals, they're expanding the active war exclusion. And so any bad actor, like cyber bad actor, that's infiltrated your organization, if they're somewhat affiliated with a government of another foreign state, it'll be considered an act of war and excluded under the policy. Now that's Lloyd. Zurich was supposed to follow suit. From what I can tell, they haven't. Chubb's has not. Travelers has not. So, but if you have a Lloyd's of London policy, or you're searching Lloyd's of London, read that exclusion very carefully.
Damn, insurance companies always find a way out.
I know. I don't know if I'm allowed.
I don't know what it is about this.
I don't know what your deal is with insurers, but I will tell you, insurance is not what it used to be. So, and they're going to put you through. They're doing a pretty thorough questionnaire and audits of people's systems, depending on the size of the policy, and so your premium will reflect your own efforts.
How did you get into this?
Really, the Army, they kind of forced the issue. I've always really liked technology. I've always been a computer person, and I've always liked playing with applications. And so I've always just naturally liked it. But I think I was telling you earlier, I would speak every year at this Toxic Torque Conference in San Francisco. And every year that I would go and speak, they would have the insurance companies come up first. And the insurance companies would show you the metrics of how many suits are being filed in what counties and what disease and whatnot. And I was a defense attorney representing Fortune 100s. And so every year is a 2 to 5% decrease in the caseloads. And I'm like, early 30s at the time. I think the first time I saw it, I was like 30, and then 31, 2, 3, 4. And I'm sitting there, man, I got a lot of work life left, and I'm not a complete moron. I'm not a genius, but I'm looking at this and going, I wouldn't invest in a stock that's going down 2 to 5% every year, and that will, based on the science, because it's all based on a latency period. We're getting into the 80s when people who worked in the 80s are getting the disease. Well, in the 80s, they were taking all this crap out, right? All the stuff that was making people sick. So you're going to have less people getting sick just by the pure epidemiology and science and government regulations. And then you're seeing that same science reflected on the metrics. I'm like, I'm not investing the rest of my career in this. This is stupid. I'm going to end up a 45-year-old lawyer with nothing to do. And everyone's going to think I'm too old to learn something. So that was my first thought, that like, I got to start figuring out a way to improve my longevity. And I was in big law at the time. And the Army made me go to some cyber conference and made me the Louisiana National Guard, I'm no longer in the Guard, had me as a legal liaison to the Governor's Cybersecurity Commission, because the Adjutant General was the co-lead of that commission. And so I started doing that, and I just kind of hooked. You read more about it, and it was also like, when we were all kids, we wanted to be explorers, right? And we're like, I'm going to go find something. And you realize you're not going to find anything. Like, everything on the Earth's already found, and the chances of you getting to go into outer space, probably not real great, right? So this is an area where it's kind of like the Wild Wild West. No one knows what's going on, and it's all patchwork. And so I was getting to be in a position where I was writing legislation. I have 8 pieces of legislation that have been passed in the Louisiana State Legislature. One that I did the initial draft on, and then later was revised, became federal legislation. So, you get to really have a real, like, it's almost like I get to be this little policymaker.
The blogs that you're writing and some of the pieces that you've written, that's the first writings that have been on the subject. Some
of it. I mean, there's a couple of big law firms that have shops that do a really good job of covering a lot. I don't know in practice how much they do, but they do a lot of good blogging, and sometimes that's where I get, my news from. I like to take it and go further into it and see how it really affects, like, they mainly report, like, this was passed and this is what this does. I'm like, I like to take that and go, how is this going to affect what you do now? Is sort of, and like, what is the threat, and how also are you informing the other side of this? Like, we like to think that we're on the side of protecting businesses, citizens, and governments. but how is this also going to affect what the bad actors are going to do? And this acts of war exclusion, for example, by Lloyd's was like, if they're a nation state backed actor, we're not going to cover it. Well, you just incentivize them to be like, my name, and by the way, go ahead and prove them wrong, that I work directly for, Vladimir Putin, and I'm hijacking your account. And guess what? Because I told you that, or I've left plenty of evidence of that, you are uninsured, so you're more likely to pay my ransom because you have no other option. So you just took leverage away from everybody.
Right.
But all that to be said, got into it. The Army made me join all these different things, and it sent me to a few courses, and I just really loved it. I was like, man, this is going to be cool. And I also, and when I brought it up to Big Law at the time, they were just like, yeah, that's great, Sarah. We just don't see the monetization here. And I was like, it's coming. And they said, no, we really need you to keep doing 2,000 hours in toxic tort. And I was like, you know what? I'm out. I was like, unless you're going to put down that iPhone in exchange for an abacus, I think there's something here, and I think you're dead wrong. And so far I've been right. Now I could go bankrupt tomorrow, but so far. So
you have your own shop? Mm-hmm. You ride your bike to work?
I do. Some days. I'm not as good about it right now because I've had to bring a lot of stuff in and out of the office. Easter, the shop became like Santa's workshop and the Easter Bunny's workshop.
Yeah.
So a good place to hide stuff. But yeah, no, I ride my bike to work a good bit. Sometimes I have the dog. He's old and decrepit, so then I have to drive. But the dog comes in a lot.
How do you balance being the boss, being a solo, being a woman on the cutting edge of technology, and also having 3 children?
Not well. I had a personal assistant.
Not well.
I had a personal assistant, and that was awesome. I need to get a new one. She just started MBA school, so she had graduated in December and needed, them to do. But I'd worked with her before just as a babysitter, and she was a runner at my old law firm. So I knew her, and she was great. It was so nice having her. Her name is Ashley Woolward, and she's an MBA student, and now she works at InRegister. She wants to get into digital marketing. So she was fantastic. I'll probably get another one. Having a personal assistant was really clutch because, we got to go get birthday party presents for somebody, and we got to wrap all these Christmas gifts, and we're out of this at the house. And
it's a full-time job.
Yeah, the dog has a vet appointment, and I realized that like all those things that I didn't need to do, like me personally, stop doing them because I can pay someone else $20 an hour. They're going to do all of that. More time I can focus on my business. And now, like, I get into the office around 7:45. I'm not big on taking a lunch break. It just puts me to sleep. But, work through the day until I hit like 3:45, 4 o'clock, hit the gym, babysitter picks up the kids. I'm home by 5:30. And it's just an easier life if you let go of the things that you don't personally need to be doing.
Yeah.
Like, it's not going to make a difference.
And do you focus your work time on work and your home time at home? You leave the work at the door?
Yes, unless there's an incident. I'm big on, if there's an incident, my job is, a lot of it is emergency response in a non-traditional sense. Obviously, I'm not a paramedic, but I get a lot of calls. It never fails every time I go on vacation, and I'm about to go on vacation for a month. Isn't that
amazing?
Yeah. I mean, every single vacation I have taken in the last few years, something has gone down.
I think your clients are tracking you on your phone. And
I know one of them is for sure.
And they can feel whenever you're outside of your little bubble.
I know one of them is absolutely. Absolutely. I have zero doubt. He's going to hear this and he's going to be laughing at me. But
no problems till you go on vacation.
No. And every time I go on vacation, we got a call from the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency saying X. And I'm like, all right, we validate it. See what we know. So every single time, never fails. So that obviously, but if there's not an incident and I'm not getting a message on my phone, and because I check my phone constantly, I wear a watch, Apple Watch tells me, they'll text me, and I tell my clients, text me. If it can wait, email, and I don't check my email usually after 4:30, 5 o'clock. But if there's an incident, yes, then I will be happy to work. But text me, just let me know. But other than that, no, it's just a great work. It's a great field. It's emerging. Anyone who's interested, keep pushing, follow it. It's fun. I mean, where else do you kind of get to take this big mold of sloppy clay and kind of make something of it, like shape it a little bit? And I think it's a great place for women because we're, especially lawyers, female lawyers, because lawyers, paranoid by nature. Your job is to think of everything bad that can happen. My job, that's what I do. I look at I'm looking down at the network maps and wondering what is the worst thing that could be impacted. I remember one time I missed an emergency room being on this list of networks, and I still feel like an idiot. So now I'm constantly looking for emergency rooms, but as potential impact. But women, we're very detail oriented. They say women make great pilots because we're great with like just the minutia. And I mean, I just sort of live in it. And it's a lot of fun. And I mean, I just like it.
Do you have any advice for women who are interested?
I didn't mean to make this, by the way, a feminazi speech.
It's
welcome to my new mindset.
I talked to 2 other women today who were in male-dominated industries, both in the legal industry and their particular niche. So I asked every one of them, do you have any advice for young ladies or women who are interested in doing what you're doing? So what would be your advice? I
would really tell, whether they're lawyers or not, I would tell them start with some government service. I really, if I had a daughter who wanted to be me when she grew up, which will never happen because I have all boys and they all think I'm an idiot. But if I had a daughter who wanted to be me when I grew up, I would tell her, look, if you want to go to law school, fine. I really think you should go to dental school, but fine.
I second that.
Yeah, no kidding. I would tell them, look, go work for a federal agency for a while. And not because you're going to learn a ton of stuff. You will learn some stuff, but you're going to have a better appreciation of who you're going to be dealing with in certain respects. You're going to have automatic credibility, when you on your resume, I did this for this agency, especially if they're in a cyber field, that's going to give you automatic credibility, right? It's going to open up doors for you that may not otherwise be opened, right? As opposed to just someone when the only thing you have on your resume is your, GPA. So I tell people to start there. If they want to be in cyber law, depending on what facet, you may want to go to big law for a while. Don't get me wrong, I made a lot of great friends there, and I didn't always love the job. But I have a lot of respect for what it gave me because it really taught me how to be a lawyer. And so if you want to be a lawyer, I still kind of, that's one way to go about it. And get paid at the same time, I guess. So I really recommend that if you can make it happen. And then if you are a lawyer but you don't want to know if you want to practice, just dive into the tech field. Just go, like I said, a lot of these, we're so short on tech jobs. There's estimates that range between 380 and 500,000 short on tech jobs. And they, it's a big, DEI and I field. That you can sometimes, they'll hire you even though you know nothing about it, and they'll pay for the training. They'll want 2 to 3 years contracted service as a result, but it's a lot of times it's worth it. And so, I mean, that's really, government service. Just dive right in if you don't want to practice because they love a lawyer, and then go to big law for a while, learn to be a lawyer, and then there's nothing stopping you from getting scooped up. I went in-house for a year before I did this for a technology nonprofit, and that's always a way to go.
Sarah, where can people find you?
I always get super embarrassed. I feel like my cheeks are about to turn red when I have to do the plug, but
it's part of the deal.
I know, and look, I appreciate it. I mean, I love work, but I'm at legallycyber.com, spelled the traditional way, Sarah with an H at legallycyber.com, and I'm intentionally very findable. LinkedIn. If you go to an Instagram page that says Legally Cyber, you're gonna see nothing there on purpose because I'm just a panda stalker, but I mean, everything else is, I'm easy to find.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I enjoyed the convo.
Thank you for having me, Chaz.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
Hey, it would mean the world to me if you subscribe to the podcast and leave us a 5-star review. It helps keep the show free, and it helps us book better guests to provide more valuable content to you. None of the opinions expressed by my guests are that of my own, and nothing we talked about creates an attorney-client relationship or could be construed as legal advice. Hope you enjoy the show.